Hi, you're with Scott. I get it wrong these days. Hi, you're with Scott. It's ASMR time. It's midnight. It's always midnight this year. So therefore, hi, you're with Scott. It's Mental Health Monday. It's Monday. It's always Monday. It's not always Monday. Don't worry. It's going to be other days. They're going to be better. Yeah, Monday happens quite a lot. It's midnight. It's always midnight. It's 8 p.m. GMT. It's always 8 p.m. GMT when it's Mental Health Monday. This is your right. I can do that. This is your right ear. And this is your left ear. Okay, I've done that. We're away. So I'll do my script and I'll just see how it goes. And I'll just do that. So like I say, it's scripted here. It's not all scripted. It's freeform. But I wrote notes and then I talk about things mental health based. This week it's about me and how I'm feeling. But it's a wider context thing. It talks about other things. So my life isn't scripted, unfortunately. I can't just write nice things in and have them happen. Although we're trying to do that. We're working towards those sort of things. But yeah, so I think I've said that now. I think that I don't know if it makes sense or not. You might notice I'm not my upbeat usual hey self. I'm a little bit confused and a little bit uncertain. So I'll go through it and I'll tell you why. I stayed up all night to watch the boxing, the Tyson Fury fight. And the knock-on effect left me feeling drained and tired and like a bit So I tried to sleep it off and I did a couple of streams, but I felt my energy was off. Are the waves too loud? I think the waves are all right, aren't they? I felt my energy was off. So I didn't do multiple streams at the end of the last week. I was like, I'm being grumpy on stream. I don't want to do that. I take Mirtazapine. I can't spell it, but I take it. Mirtazapine. And I've got that on one of these. Before we get going, look, this is the Samaritans. 116123. It's a free phone number. So if you want to call them if you're feeling down and depressed, Mental Health Monday, look, that's in the UK. And in America, that's Lifeline. That's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. It's free. It's in America. So just make sure you've seen that and aware of that, because I'm going to chuffle on. And the chuffling's going to get out of hand. The chuffling's just going to be chuffing all over the show. So if you start thinking, what's he doing chuffling on when I should be... Samaritans there, you can call them. And this is Ganji Kid. This is our stream channel. This is... It says chuffers at the top, look. And I wanted to say about Mirtazapine. So look, I've looked it up here, but it's showing the results for Mirtazapine because I can't spell it. But if you need to look it up, it's all there on the internet. It's quite detailed stuff. There's some stuff on Wikipedia that goes far beyond, and I'll be honest about this, like I take this of a regular, but I don't really pretend to completely understand. I mean, I know a little bit about the look at all these long words. Monoamine oxidase inhibitor. The 5-HT receptor is a predominant serotonin receptor involved in the pathophysiology of serotonin. It doesn't interact with the serotonin syndrome. It's not bad for that. What it does is it acts as an antagonist for one of these receptors in your brain, and the receptor that antagonises or sort of interferes with the speedy uptake of whatever is it's hystemic in its general outlook, but it does affect the way you think. I'm not going to pretend to know all these long words and chemical things. I'm not a microchemical biology. I mean, I trust, and I take it. And it's also fairly modern. Since the 90s, this has been used. So, I mean, I trust and I take it. I started taking Mirtazapine some years ago on the advice of the doctor. It wasn't on the advice of the doctor, actually. It was on the advice of a friend. They'd had some success with it. In the past, I had very little experience with prescribed antidepressants. There was this antidepressant that was going around when I was younger called Seroxat, and Seroxat was popular at the time. It was offered to me. I took a couple of them and I was like, I don't like this feeling. It was like someone had muffled my head, and I could see that it wasn't allowing me to feel so depressed because it simply wasn't allowing me to feel anything. Like, it was weird. I didn't like it. And then some weeks went, like, I mean, I stopped taking it. I was like, I'm not having that. No thanks. Not a fan of that. But that didn't improve my mental health, of course. My mental health was still in decline, but I didn't want that option that they gave me. So not the first port of call choice of drugs didn't work for me, fine. But then some months later, I saw on the news that people who had been taking Seroxat were killing themselves, basically, and that the Seroxat, rather than preventing the depression had led to this like catastrophic final conclusion, and that was really bad. So I was lucky in a way that I didn't take that. So I had this I mean, obviously I mentioned suicide there. I'm going to bring it up again. There's the Samaritans, they're waiting for your call. There's Lifeline in the USA. We're not going to look at suicide as an option. It seems like an option because when you're suffering, the easiest way out would seem to alleviate your suffering, I guess. But honestly, we're not looking at that as an option. We're looking at other options and pushing forward, aren't we? That's the main point here. So anyway, people did unfortunately have this bad interaction with this other drug. So I'd written off antidepressants as I'm not going to take these funny pills because the doctors don't know exactly what's going on. I've seen it bear out in the news, and that could have been me for the grace of God. I don't know. I just don't feel like that's for me. So some years pass. Life's different. This is years later now after I've given up the hairdressing and started on like the staying up all night doing the ASMR. It was around the same sort of time as the veganism. Like things were in change. So I had this advice from a friend. They'd been taking Mirtazapine and it'd been helping them for anxiety and sleeping. So I said this to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Like we can give you some of that if you want to try that. I've just not been pushing drugs on you because you told me specifically you didn't want to take them." And I was like, "Yeah, that's true. You know, we're all good here." So I started taking at first with some side effects that make you feel a bit. I've written my life isn't scripted, but I've written a few notes. So I had some reservations, and a side effect is that it can make your head feel a bit cloudy. And initially it did this, and it had some other side effects. It made me feel drowsy and a bit congested. It acts on the histamic system, so it made me feel like a histamic. I don't know if I'm getting the right words. I'm not a super doctor. But it made me feel congested and a bit drowsy. But this was okay because if you take it at the right time, about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, then that can help you to get to sleep. And I found that getting up in the morning was more difficult if I took it later on at night. So timing the dose, actually working with those side effects of feeling a bit drowsy, that was actually kind of cool for somebody who was a bit of an insomniac and wanted to try and get to sleep early. So drowsiness wasn't as a big problem. You do get the Mirtazapine munchies. Like it increases your appetite about an hour after you've taken it. So again, I used to time that for my dinner. So just like that would be fine. Like I'd eat a big dinner, good for me. And the other things though, like headaches and a dry mouth, yeah, I've had those sort of side effects. So there are negative side effects that I wasn't enjoying as much. But part of the process of the Mirtazapine is you start on a smaller dose, and then if you're still feeling a bit depressed or still having some of these stronger side effects, you push up the dose. It sounds counterintuitive, but at the slightly, and we're talking between 15 milligrams and 30 milligrams, so we're talking small intervals in terms of drugs. But the slightly higher dose has fewer side effects. It's weird, isn't it? But it's how it works. So I went up to the slightly higher dose of 30 milligrams, and it was actually beneficial to me. The other side effect I did notice is hair loss, and it won't work now, will it? Because I could pull the hair out. You can always pull your hair out. I've done a lot of hair study because I used to be a full-time NVQ level 4 hair salon owner. But you lose about 100 hairs a day. It's about how they regrow. That's the issue. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. The doctor says, "Oh, you're getting older." You know, I'm like, well, one of the side effects could be hair loss. And I did change to becoming a vegan. I gave up alcohol. So a lot of changes in my life at the same time. But I feel that my hair is, as a head of hair, slightly thinner and continuing down that vein. So that's one side effect that I wasn't really too chuffed with. But like we talked about it with the doctor. I talked about it with the doctor. It's like these side effects, they're not the positive things, but there's this other positive thing which I feel a lot more balanced, a lot more stable, a lot less depressed, suicidal thoughts. We'll talk about those things in a bit on this episode as well. So but a lot less of that, a lot more stability, not the fuzzy-headed I can't think therefore I'm not depressed stability, but just the sort of the things that used to really sink me are not sinking me as much, and I'm able to let them pass a lot easier. So that's been good for me, and I like it. And I'm sleeping a lot better with the drowsiness coming on after I take it about an hour or two later. So that's actually working for me as a side effect. So there's some things that, in balance, I remember the doctor saying, would you rather lose your hair and feel happy, or be depressed and have a full head of hair. And I said, well, if I lost my hair, it might make me depressed. So, swings and roundabouts. I don't know. But overall, we agreed that, it's better to persist down this road at this stage. That was a while ago as well. So things are in a fine balance with Mirtazapine. Things are in a fine balance. Something else that's important to note is that I felt that if I can get myself off Mirtazapine, then I can, stop these side effects and live a more. There's plenty of bald happy people. Yeah, exactly. If my granddad lost his hair, if I lose my hair naturally, I'm not going to be like, this is the end of the world. Like, it's not going to be a huge positive and like a huge boon to my life, but I'm also going to be able to like take things in my stride. I know I am. We're going to get older. We all are. We're going to take things in our stride. That's fine. So, but if I was doing it to myself through a side effect of something where I could reduce my dependency on the tablets, then I want to reduce my dependency on the tablets anyway. So that's what I was thinking. But also I read that coming off Mirtazapine can be very difficult and you crash if you do it too abruptly. So this is some years ago I'm talking still. I'd made a plan for the following. Mirtazapine helps me to feel better. I feel better, so I become more productive. And this leads me to become more emotionally and financially stable. And then I can reduce the Mirtazapine because life is good, or at least bearable. It's like I'm making forward progress, so I reduced the Mirtazapine. That made sense to me. So I tried to reduce the dose a couple of years ago. I tried to reduce the dose a couple of years ago. I was working on film projects. Things were looking positive. The film fell apart. And Navin, my dog, bit me. I had to take him and have him put down. It was very sad. So I came up against these life struggle stutter steps, and maybe the reduction in Mirtazapine made these things hit harder at the time. Maybe I didn't see that, I don't know, but I felt bad. So I talked to the doctor and we agreed to stop reducing it and to just maintain my dose again, because feeling bad, you can just up the dose again. Fine. I was not happy with that, but that seemed like an appropriate response. Things plateaued out again. I tried to start the reduction again. It has to take months, if not a year or two, to reduce off this thing, bear in mind. So it's not going to be like overnight. I'm going to go from 30 mil a day to 30 mil every 3 days, and then a 15, and then a 30, 30, 30, 15. And then obviously, you get how this is going to work. It's going to go 30, 30, 15, 15, 30, 30, 30. Or at the moment, and this is my point, I tried reducing it and then COVID hit and Nan died. And I was already, by the time Nan had died, I was already back up to my standard dose because of the COVID. I was reducing this thing, and then things were happening that were bad in life. So I was like in a kind of flux. I'm trying to reduce it, but then I'm putting it up, and then, you know what I'm saying. So this time, after Nan died, I said to myself, look, things are getting better. I mean, they can't get much worse, can they? COVID and all was pretty bad in a world sort of way, not just me feeling that, but the whole world was suffering. So as we as a society push forward and come out of this, as I personally go on this journey of building up the media, the podcast, a new frontier to ride out on, as we go on this journey, this is a good time, even though the world is struggling from grief and I'm struggling with grief, and even though that's happening, now's a good time to reduce the dose in line with that push forward. I believed. We'll talk about it. So I've been reducing the dose in the hope that I can come off Mirtazapine. When I say come off it, I mean I want it to be me that deals with these life issues. I want it to be me that works through these feelings, and I know that it's helpful to have had this, and hopefully not the final frontier. Hopefully the podcast can lead to further interesting things. Who knows? We'll talk about that a little bit in a bit as well, because it's part of this story. So but yeah, as I feel we're moving forward, I want to reduce it with the aim, because I want to be in control of this journey in the future. And I've got this other dark worry, which is that if life gets harder, which it will in the future, there will be more things that are going to make me sad. That's for sure. I don't want to be on like the maximum dose and be like, oh, hang on, now I'm feeling depressed again. I can't do. What can I do about that? Nothing. Now I'm boned. Like, I want it to be there as a fallback option, so that when these sad things happen, I can say, oh, if I need to, I can go back on this Mirtazapine, which helped me through these things in the past. But I don't want it to just be my standard day-to-day. You can see what I'm saying? You can see what I'm saying? If I get more depressed while I'm on it, then I don't know what else to turn to, so that's a worry. So if I can have it there as a fallback option, it can be there as a safety net and can make me feel comfortable even though I'm not taking it. It's there, you know. I can see that as an option when things get dark. So if I come off it, I've got that safety net for the future if I ever feel really down. So I think I hit a point whereby the levels of Mirtazapine in my system are not helping with the side effects. Okay, this is my next little chapter. Mirtazapine has a half-life of about 20 to 40 hours. So what that means is that in about 20 to 40 hours, it'll be out of your system. It doesn't really mean that. What it means is that a half-life is, you know how, I'm not here to explain science. It's tough for me to get my head around some of these concepts. But you know how exponential the COVID was? It was going up exponentially, doubling every day. If it halves every day, that's its half-life. How long it takes to go to nothing from something, halving every day, you know, there's always going to be a little something, but until it's basically gone, is how long that takes is the half-life of something. I think basically it's in my system longer than, if I take it, it's not gone, it's still there in my system a little bit longer. So you take Mirtazapine and it builds up in your system to a sort of level, and then it plateaus because you're maintaining that level. So when I'm missing a dose, when I'm taking 15 less, at the moment I'm doing 30, 15, 15, 30, 15, 15, 30, 15, 15, 30. So more 15s than 30s. So my levels are reducing like that, you know. So I've hit a certain point where I'm nearly at that 15, 15, 15, 15. And that level is the point I know it is this like fuzzier head, more side effects, more difficulties getting up in the morning, more confusion. And of course, couple that with the boxing event that I stayed up all night to watch, it's like I'm invoking the storm on myself in that situation. So no wonder the week following I felt not quite myself, wasn't putting forward the best person I could be into the world, wasn't producing the kind of media I wanted, wasn't saying the things I wanted to say, really. Anger, confusion can bleed through. You know, feeling tired, feeling irritated, not having this thing, reducing those feelings in my system, having to deal with them myself and let them pass, or grab hold of them and you know, wave them around like a flag. That's all part of that, isn't it? So I wasn't recognizing it's like an orchestra of like, imagine your mind, oh God, imagine your mind is an orchestra of different instruments, you know, and making its beautiful music. And I didn't realize how the detuning of like only the Mirtazapine instrument has just been off tune now. So now the orchestra's not quite, and I'm like, how am I? And I need to get into this next bit on my, I need to explain this because I've got it written in my script a bit. I was getting confused, yeah? Let's start with that. I was getting confused. The positive effect of the Mirtazapine was waning. I could just up the dose again, but I don't want to, because, and here's an example, just an example. When Nan died, I realised it was really sad and it was hard to get through, but I knew that it was natural and that we were all going to go through it together as a family. So I knew my response to that was correct. You know, to feel grief was correct. So I didn't want to sort of dampen it down. I wanted to work through it and feel it. And, you know, it's not bad that you feel things. It's not, even though they're hard things to feel, hard burdens to carry, it's not bad to become stronger through carrying them, you know? So reducing the dose and a subtle shift in, like, back this next chapter then. So I can see why I want to reduce the dose and I want to continue doing that, but I can also see that it's having an effect on me. So reducing the dose and a subtle shift in the season, the momentum in my life, it left me confused and full of doubt. So this is what I wanted to, I'm trying to, you see, the confusion is making me less literate. verbal literacy. Me speak bad. I'm not speaking as well eloquently as I could do. So I tried to do some notes. Anyway, look. I've been streaming the vegan playthrough of Green Hell. We built a campfire, we drank some ayahuasca, and I felt like we got somewhere. And then I came off the stream and I started to doubt myself and articulate. Yes, see, I've got the best chat. You don't get this in other chat. You don't get this level of this level of intelligence in other chats. I'm telling you. Wait. I shouldn't poo-poo other people's chats. I'm sure other people have some very intelligent chats too, but they always my chat always seems to know the words that elude me. So I've been streaming this vegan playthrough of Green Hell. So part of Green Hell is exploring, but my trial and error gameplay, it was making me a little bit because I was a bit fuzzy headed, and the trial and error gameplay could be boring and tiresome to watch. I'm trying to create media here as well, aren't I? I'm entertainment in some aspects. So should I just go offline, read a guide, learn how to play the game, and then come back and be like, oh, this is what we're doing today. This is fun. It's good. Look at me doing it. Or should I go through that trial and error because it's the reality of me playing the game, and that's also fun for, I'm sure there are people that don't mind hanging out while we learn how to build a hut or whatever. But to other people, it might be boring. I'm having these questions. And the thing is, it doesn't really matter. I should just pick one and go for it. And it's more important to do something than not do it and refine as you go. And in the long run, in 10 years' time, I'm not going to look back and say, oh, do you remember that Green Hell playthrough? What a massive decision it was that I made when I decided to look on the internet to see how to build the thing, or not to, and to play it for an extra 10 hours on stream. It's not going to, no one's going to look back in the Ganji career and say, like, that was the pivotal moment, are they? So it doesn't, I'm making more of a mental struggle of it than I needed to, and it was putting me off even doing it. Doubts, confusions, a fuzzy head. That's all part of the reducing the mirtazapine bleeding into my thought process, but I wasn't recognising it enough to then say, okay, well, I can box that off and float a little balloon on it and let it go because it doesn't matter. I was still cogitating it and working it through in the edit even, and it was not helping. This also spoiled the bullseye stream that I wanted to do. I'm getting lost in my notes here. I'll just say it now. It also spoiled that because I had this plan, and then I looked into it a bit more, and then I was a bit more, oh, hang on, is the presenter, is he racist, or did he represent a certain time, and is it worth talking about that? Am I raising his, like, putting him on a platform to talk about, and inadvertently just like sort of broadcasting some lazy racism from the past when we should be having fun on a quiz show? And am I therefore dragging down the fun we were going to have on the quiz show game by making it about all this politics when it should just be fun? And I had a little plan and a structure, and I ruined it because I felt like, I can't even show a bullseye clip because he might have been a racist, and I don't know if he was, and if I investigate it, it brings up this whole other kettle of fish, which I'm not supposed to be doing a video about the lazy racism of the working men's clubs in the 1960s, but it became this, and then, you see, so that was the same thing. So I was feeling, my routine is to edit, walk the dog, and stream. And I was feeling like I'm staying in a lot, and meals were getting repetitive and boring. I was feeling depression and confusion, and it was affecting my productivity. And then Coldplay announced that they were going to go on a tour, and I realised things were getting really bleak. That's a little joke I wrote in. I wrote a joke into my own sadness. Do you like that? It's true though. Coldplay announced they were going on tour. That just, nobody needs to hear Yellow again. Nobody needs to hear that again, mate. I understand that it made you a bit of money. You should stay at home with that money. You should sell the guitars now, sell them for money. You'd get more money. You'd be better off with the money. You don't need to make any more of those songs. So the head mist from taking these tablets, but also from depression. It's a fine balance. It's a mix that's going on in your mind, isn't it? The head mist, as I'm reducing this dosage, it's like a game. I'm going to do the tick because I want this for the edit. The head mist is like in a computer game. It's like in a game where your goals and targets were once visible. They're off in the distance, okay? But that's fine. There's something there to work towards. There's something there to build towards and head for. But the mist comes down, and now they're barely visible. Brian Bedondi. Now they're barely visible. I'm laughing my way through this. This is my feelings this week. Now they're barely visible in the gloom. And I'm not careful. Yeah. Now they're barely visible in the gloom. And if I'm not careful, I could pick out the wrong light and get the wrong idea and sort of veer off track. That's the head mist, like in a computer game. You get that? It's nice. Is it a metaphor or an allegory? I don't care. It's not. It's nice to think about in that way. It gives you a good visual picture of how that mist. You want to go for something, but even your endeavour might be misplaced, and you're not sure about your ideas, which are drifting about in this mist. Some days it can seem so clear. When the mist clears, if you can get yourself to a peak, if you can get yourself out and about, walk the dog, eat your dinner, feel better. And if you can get yourself up on a bit of a peak, then you can have a better look and see these objectives more clearly. But you've got to descend into that mist again, and that's going to carry with you this is part of what I'm learning about and helped me to learn by doing this week is it might carry it with me for a bit. So I'm going to have to learn to guide myself, to guide my way through this. And that's why at the end I said this lovely thing, which I'm going to say it one more time now, and then I'll say it again at the end as well. I said this lovely thing is that I want to stream more because I know this is clearly the path to the greater goal. Because along this path, in the mist, you're here. Good people are here calling me forward and holding my hand. So that's something key to think about, isn't it? That's the end. I've said it already again twice. It's a nice little... But anyway, so yeah. In the mist. Where am I? I wrote all the things I've just said. I wrote all that stuff, and now I'm going to do something to change it. I wrote in my notes last week. I decided to make a video. This is just... you're going to have to listen to me tangent my way through this. So I decided to make a video that I always wanted to make about baked beans. It gives me a chance to play with my camera. I didn't make that video. I didn't make it. I wrote some of it, but I couldn't quite find the motivation to translate all of the research into a script, into a video. I couldn't quite do it. That's on part of my indecision and uncertainty. It's part of that mist. I wasn't sure if the baked beans video was the right thing to be doing. I still don't know. I went on Twitter a bit too much, and it's not good for my mental health. I don't know about everyone. It's not good for my mental health on Twitter. For some reason, the longer I spend on it, I don't know if it's correlated, or maybe it's because I'm feeling more misty, I go on Twitter more. I don't know, but there seems to be a correlation between the worse I feel, the longer I spend on it, and the worse I tweet. So this week, a politician, David Ames, was stabbed. That's a bad thing in the UK. David Ames was stabbed. He was very proactive in a lot of positive things in politics. Animal rights. I say positive from my perspective. Like politics, you have different views, don't you? But from my perspective, animal rights are a good thing. Jessel's baked beans. Oh man, could you imagine if baked beans? Oh, I would hate that. I'd hate it if I became famous through some sort of baked bean based endeavour, and I was then known as the baked bean fellow. That guy who did the art about the baked beans. Oh, great. Great. I bet Warhol felt that as well. Now I'm thinking about it. Soup. Everyone's always going on about soup. What do you think of my changing of the field of art? I like your soup. It wasn't even my soup. It was somebody else's. It was Campbell's. Soup. But he was saying that. I probably wasn't saying that, was he? He was probably out having fun. Look, David Ames was stabbed. It was a murder, and it was probably a terrorist murder, and it was bad. The things he did in politics weren't all bad. He was in some of the things I agree with, like the animal rights. But this is going to be hard for me to say because he's just recently been stabbed. So take that with a pinch of salt. I'm about to say here. He wasn't always on the right side of everything. He was in the Conservative Party, which I'm sort of against. He was part of that Conservative Party for the last 50. I don't know how long he's been in it. 20 years since the 80s, 80, 90, 40 years. He's been in this position as MP in the Conservative Party. Over that time, I feel, he's been on the wrong side of some of these things that I feel have made other people suffer. The poverty, that's politics, yeah? That's politics. So when you get stabbed to death, it's not the day to say politics. It's not. However, I didn't know enough about him, so I looked into it a bit, and there were a couple of things that I was like, well, he seems to be on the side of animals, but he's only it might be that he's sort of carrying that flag because it wins a lot of votes, and really, does he live his life by those? Well, he doesn't anymore, he's dead, but did he live his life by those morals? Well, not exactly. He wasn't like a vegan, for example. He, ate the dead animals, so... again, pinch of salt because he's dead. I shouldn't be saying this stuff, but this is important about my feelings. Look, I didn't find all his record on LGBT voting, but I certainly know the Conservatives' general policy about human rights, and there's these problems with him that I don't fully endorse some of the things he's done. So also, it was a Harvey Weinstein problem, was that after Harvey Weinstein died, he put out a press release suggesting that it was Weinstein's not dead, is he? After Weinstein was done, he put out a press release saying some of the victims, survivors, their reports were dubious. Now, he said that he put out this came as a press release from his office, and then there was another press release that said, no, I didn't say that. MP Ames didn't say that. He doesn't agree with that. The press release was put out by mistake. Now, the problem with this is that if I'm to believe the second press release, he didn't say it. I'm only reading and believing what the press release says. So the first press release did say it. Which one is really what he's saying? Is it the first one where he said it, but he didn't say it? It was someone in the office wrote it on a press release. They told me in a press release. So is he writing that second one where he's promising it's him the second time? It's all just that murky world of he said the wrong thing because he thought the wrong thing and actually didn't want to stand by it because it was clearly backlash. I mean, I did that this week. I tweeted the wrong thing. So I tweeted essentially, there's a wider context to this. On the same day, there was a news story about a young black kid who's been stabbed to death, 16-year-old. And I see these news stories every day, and I felt like when I read about this kid who ran through, I'm saying kid, he was 16. He ran through the streets. He was pursued by other young thugs. The brutal murder. It wasn't just like a one-off. This happens every day. We see them reports every day. Stabbings, problems going up. Conservative government in charge of this whole thing for 10 years. Problems. So I see that and I'm sickened. And then I go on Twitter to post about this poor 16-year-old and he's been murdered. And I see on Twitter R.I.P. this fellow, and I'm like, this fellow. Oh, he's an MP. Oh, so we don't care about the 16-year-old kid who got stabbed because an MP's got stabbed. Everyone's got to tweet about this MP. It doesn't matter if you're the dog's charity, who he was nice to your charity, or you're the opposition parliament person, or you're not anyone. You're tweeting about this MP. It become this big thing on Twitter. And in my heart, I was thinking that this is out of whack. I know he's an MP and it's going to be a big thing, but the amount of sentiment, it turns out I loved him. He was the greatest guy ever. Said nobody over the last 10 years until he's been stabbed to death. Now everyone loves him. But that same thing isn't coming out for these 16-year-old kids. Oh, now we love them. Now they've been stabbed to death. They just go by the wayside. I have a cloudy mind. My mind is mystified and confused. So I tweeted, not anything negative as such, but I tweeted that I don't know the answer. I don't know what to say, is basically what I was trying to say. It worked for Jesus. It worked for Jesus, yeah. I'm ASMR Jesus, aren't I? I should do the lights. Where's my remote control? Let's have a little bit of this. Please. Remote control. There you go. ASMR Jesus in the house. Suddenly we've been blessed. Now we'll go back to this nice shade of fuchsia pink. I had this fuzzy mind, and what I posted was, I don't know if I should be lauding this dead MP, because there are some things on his record, and I flagged up the Harvey Weinstein press release specifically, that caused me some concern. And in the same tweet I was like, I don't know if I can't remember actually. I'm not good at remembering my tweets. There are hundreds that fly by, aren't they? But I think I made some point about this, or maybe someone made a reply to it, and I replied with, well, there's also this 16-year-old kid. This is a wider context that I'm coming from. But that was like, it was poorly judged. Like, someone commented on it like, this is poorly judged. And I went for a dog walk and I thought about, and this is the malaise, the mist. I'd done a little tweet about something in the news, but it concerned my brain for the next 6 hours. Like, I couldn't let that go. I'm a writer, but I shouldn't have done that. It was the wrong thing to do. I feel bad. Like, I know his friends and family, the dead Parliament, the dead minister, his friends and family are not going to read my tweet and say, oh, that was callous. How horrible, and now I'm hurt. I know that's not going to happen. I'm tweeting into this little mini void of 4,000 followers or whatever, a mini void. So it's not like I'm changing the world there, but I don't want people to feel bad, and I don't want to misrepresent myself. So what I decided to do was to say that I felt regret over what I'd posted, and that I understand that he just died and it was poorly timed and not classy, and that even if I didn't say all this stuff because you can't in a tweet, but even if I feel this stuff, now's not the time. Maybe a wider context conversation about what happens on Twitter when someone dies is in order, but not right now. Maybe in a couple of weeks I can make a video that says these things, raises these issues. What's more valuable? Why is this big Twitter storm? Why does everyone love him now he's dead when they never mentioned him the week before? And why don't they about these young lads that are getting murdered? So that's a different story, isn't it? That's a different story. But I just apologise. I didn't delete the tweet. I didn't think that was appropriate. You don't hide things and cover your tracks, and I stand by what I did. Even if it's a mistake, I'll stand by the fact I made a mistake. I'll be honest about it. I left it there, but I retweeted the person who said, no, you're wrong, and said, thank you very much, because you've pointed me in the right direction here. I thought about what you said and I kind of agree with your points. Thanks for that. So it highlighted to my Twitter feed that I'd made the mistake. So I hope that that's enough. I can move on from there. I'm not going to be no longer. I mean, I didn't really know David Ames and his work. I wasn't really following him. He's not in my local area. He's not the MP that's doing the worst things that I'm most abhorrent. I find most abhorrent. So I didn't really know. I'd have to do some research. And it's, is it my Scotty Hottie? Should Scotty Hottie now be devoting his life to researching all these different people because this one's died and what they're all? I can't. That's not my bag. That's not my thing, is it? So the best thing to do is leave that and move on, isn't it? It's the mist. It's the confusion. So I decided to get out and do something different for a day. Squid Game made me cry. Now, this is not a review of Squid Game. And I started to write one in my malaise, again, in my fuzzy, should I be doing this, should I be doing that? I watched Squid Game. I watched it all. Everyone's talking about it. The reason they're talking about it is because the Netflix algorithms promote it to the people they think are the most influencer, sort of hippie people. So Netflix promotes it, literally puts it in front of people. Some of them watch it. It's violent. It's slightly controversial. And they're like, oh, that'll make a good news story, say the media. Well, they talk about the fact it's violent and it's Korean. That's it. So that's enough. Job done. Everyone's talking about it. Well, the media are talking about it now. So now we're talking about it. So now I have to watch it. Good marketing. Good marketing. Okay, no spoilers. I won't do any spoilers, because this is not a Squid Game review. Other than to say, the only thing I would say is don't miss the subtext. Don't miss the subtext. If you're going to watch Squid Game, have a little. You probably know a bit already about Korea, North Korea, South Korea, but have a little look, have a little think about that before you get going. Because we watch media in the West, and so many people. I should do a review of Squid Game, because so many people have watched media in the West that's from another culture and ignored the history and the context and just take it as it is. Just take it on the surface level. Well, Squid Game means a little bit of a different thing, coming from a culture that's had a civil war, that lives separate, doesn't it? Like, if that had happened in the UK and Scotland was boarded off from England, I'm sure I would read in something slightly different to EastEnders. I don't know. But I think there's more to it that people have missed, and you can gain more out of it if you think about these deeper things, because, then you can say, oh, maybe this, and maybe that means this, and maybe they're trying to talk about that. Other than just like, yeah, his head chopped off. No spoilers. I don't think anyone does get, or maybe someone does get, I don't know. Like, that people are going to die in it, don't you? So, I'm not telling you any spoilers there. Although theoretically I did. But yeah, so I watched Squid Game, and it made me cry. There are some emotional moments in it. It reminded me, I'm not going to spoil it, no spoilers, but there was a scene in it that reminded me of the day that I had to take my dog to the vet. And the concept of being good friends, and having to not, to manipulate, to not exactly tell the truth about the situation to your friend in a compassionate way. That concept was raised. I felt emotional, right? And it made me cry. It made me think of Navin. So feeling these things is like a wave passing, or it's like a fire springing back from the embers, something that needs to be controlled. You don't want to let it get out of hand, but you can also acknowledge it and feel the warmth. There's some warmth in that. I'll get on to saying why. I'm glad that I actually feel things, and I'm glad that things meant something. So I need to carry this through and continue, because it does matter. Because if it didn't matter, I'm thinking we're going to talk in a little bit about depression feelings, reducing this Mirtazapine, feeling depressed, feeling like things don't matter, feeling in that malaise. I felt sad about the Squid Game. I felt like I need to feel these things. They're reflecting of my emotions of things that have happened in my life. I'm happy that these ideas have come up again. It made me think differently about something. It made me remind of something. I'll feel that sadness and I'll let it pass like a wave. It's okay. Like, it burns up again like an ember, and you control it. Feel the warmth. And I was saying that, wasn't I? It does matter. It was real, and that's the warmth. And I'll come back to that in just a second. I also watched other things. I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that was awful. I hated that. It was a really bad waste of my time. There were some good points, some good filmmaking involved, but the whole overall experience was what a waste of time. So it wasn't everything that was making me cry. I wasn't just completely like in an emotional wreck. But I also watched Moneyball, which is a film about baseball, and that made me cry, or it made me feel emotional. I was eating pizza at the time, and I felt like, this pizza's just like stodgy. It's like it doesn't taste of anything. I'm just sort of fueling myself. I know I've got to eat, so I'm eating. This is depressing, part of depression. And then I said to myself, hang on, wait. This pizza isn't horrible. It's cheesy, or it's not cheesy, it's vegan cheesy, or it's got cheese substitute on it. And I should stop and, try and taste what kind of cheese substitute. Is it a more parmesan-y cheese, or is it a more cheddar-y? The dough is crispy, and they're doing the mindfulness. I started doing the mindfulness, and suddenly it was a lot better. The pizza was a lot nicer. I was being mindful, and I said to myself, okay, Moneyball's starting to make me feel emotional. Maybe I'm just letting myself get settled into the sofa with the pizza and the emotions. Maybe I'm just wallowing in it. Maybe I need to be more mindful of what I'm actually thinking and feeling. And let these things pass, and not, So I grabbed hold of myself in then. This was key. I did a bit of song practice, and it was awful. This is also key. So I grabbed hold of myself with the mindfulness. I got the guitar, and I said, we're going to do some playing the guitar. That's quite a mindful thing. I'm thinking about what I'm doing. But also, it's quite an emotional thing that makes me sad sometimes. So it can go either way. And it went badly in that I felt really emotional, and I sang really badly. I wasn't doing good singing. I know I can sing a lot better. I felt like I couldn't hear myself properly. It was part of this malaise. It's like this wave cycle of feeling good, feeling down. I was getting a hold of myself and then slipping down again quick. So this is where I wanted to talk about suicidal thoughts. And I didn't feel suicidal. But suicidal thoughts, and I'm going to bring up the old Samaritans again for this one. You can't even see it, can you? Just move it. There you go. Whee. Suicidal thoughts don't have to mean you're buying the pills or tying the rope. Part of me, how do I explain this? So the songs that I write are personal to me and emotional, but I also feel like as part of my life, it's important that one day I present them in a recorded form so other people can hear them. I would feel sad if I died and all the songs I wrote only existed in me and my brain, and you could never hear them. You can hear some of them through the YouTube. They exist. Great. YouTube might not live forever. When I'm dead, it might turn off my channel. I don't know. But at least they exist. They're recorded and they're there right now. That's a step I want to make with all of my songs. all the ones I've written. I want all of them, at least in some form, to be on YouTube so they exist. Right. I'm playing these songs and I'm feeling sad and low. I'm thinking, well, how important is that really? Is this song even good enough to record to put onto YouTube? Does it matter if it's not on YouTube? Should I just put down the guitar and not bother practicing anymore? That's depression, isn't it? That's suicidal thoughts. It's not, should I kill myself? But it's, what would life be like if I didn't achieve my goals? What would life be like if I didn't push towards that thing? And the next step to that is, you could think, like, your life, because when people talk about looking and they're outside themselves in a traumatic situation. Well, sometimes when I'm feeling depressed, or when you're feeling depressed, or when we are feeling depressed, life can feel like a really boring, or like, I watched that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it wasn't a bad film. It was well crafted in ways. There were things that were interesting to look at, but it was like a boring, awful film that had no point. And I thought that, or it did have a point, but the point wasn't even up my street. Rather have not watched that. I could have turned that off and turned it off early, switched over to something else, maybe just turned off the telly. And that's the suicidal thoughts, isn't it? When you think about your life as like a boring, pointless, day to day, same dinner again, don't like the taste of this anymore, just going to have to eat it. Just going to have to eat it should be a phrase, like that we have to, that feels like a phrase that should have been passed down from generation to generation in this country. Oh, I'm not enjoying this. Well, you're just going to have to eat it. Get on with it. And this wartime spirit of, this is a problem with mental health, is that that film was 90%. Do you know what? I even know, you're so right. At one point, I fast forwarded a scene because I was offended by the immediacy of the dirty feet right up in the frame. Fast forwarded the scene of watching herself on the thing. This can't be a film review. We can, another stream we can do a film review, but not right now because we're going to talk about depression. But I did, and I thought Tarantino must, because he did it in Pulp Fiction as well, didn't he? He had Uma Thurman's feet out in Pulp Fiction, and it made me think back to that, and it made me remember that, and I thought, what's going on with this? What are you doing, Tarantino? What are you doing? So yeah, that's true. You're bang right. I'm talking about suicidal thoughts, not dirty feet. Look, sometimes your life can feel like that boring film, and that you're just, would it be better just to turn it off? Oh, here's a foot over there. You go. That explains it then. Although it doesn't explain why he'd still put it on the main screen of the cinema for everyone else. Maybe he shot that and take it home and watch it, and not edit it into the main film, because we're not all interested in watching. And they weren't even, it wasn't like some of those shots, they weren't like, like the sexy foot shot. It was like the bottom of the sole of it. Like I'm sure there were ways to shoot feet in a more attractive manner than just like, there it is in the camera, have a smell of that. Look, anyway, we're talking about nihilism. What would it be like to just turn the film off? I need to edit this, so I'm going to have to say this. Sometimes your life feels like a really boring, painful film, and you're watching it and you're just thinking about, what would it be like if I just switched this one off? That's suicidal thoughts. And then what I do sometimes, if I'm thinking like that, is I think, what would it be like for the other people who would be in my life, who would be sad if I wasn't here? And I'll explain this as brutally as I can, because I think it's the only way. There's the thing you'd think, they'd be sad. They'd be sad, wouldn't they? Obviously, that's bad. But then the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the negative, the malaise, the thing that's not really you, that can take you down that wrong road, is the bit where you think, but they'd get over it. They'd be sad, but they'd carry on. Sad things happen. You start to write yourself out of that future story, and not just to write yourself out of the script, but to sort of justify to yourself that it wouldn't be that bad, that people would just get on with it. And you know the truth. Do you know the truth? They would get on with it. They wouldn't want to have this thing, It's hard to talk about it in logical ways here, because of course life would go on without you, but that's not like it's better without you. It's not like your reasoning of like, well, it could be that's part. It's not thinking about killing yourself, but it is down that suicidal thought pattern, isn't it? It's an interesting thing to bring out of this. So there's Lifeline in America. There's the Samaritans in the UK. So when I'm thinking about that, I get hold of myself. I'm like, that's the seed of the weeds that we don't want to have growing. You know, that's the instigation of that. That's the seams that are splitting, isn't it? This is the time to start stitching this back up. I realise this is going to sound so weird now when I say this, but in the same headspace, because this is a fog, a malaise. It's not like that is driving you. It's like that's one of the lights in the distance. It's one of the songs in the trees. You know, it's not the primary driver, but depending on which way you face and which direction you follow, any of these things can become the emergent forces in the mist, can't they? So I realise I'm so lucky, because when you're depressed, your warm bed or your heated house, it doesn't feel like a super special luxury. And I make sure to thank God for all the, I don't want to say little things, they're big things, the big things. And I thank God for all those things, because without this, I thank God, because without those things, this situation, this malaise, this fog, going through that in a luxury prison. I say prison all the time, a luxury prison. What do you mean luxury prison, you idiot? You can go out. Yeah, I know, but we've been at home because of the COVID, haven't we? And it's not just that. I live in abject luxury compared to some people in the world who are suffering. But it doesn't mean that I can just go out my door and just do what I want. And, the American free land of the free. But, you might get shot down there, and these people might be trying to rob you. And that fella's trying to get you hooked on drugs. And these people want your money for a subscription service for something you're not really going to use. And, the land of the free to be coerced and cajoled, and your goals. I want to be a Fortnite player. Well, if you can't even afford the Xbox and you haven't got the time to play, you might have to go and work in McDonald's, mate. Some people were working in McDonald's before they quit and became world championship boxers. I don't know, it's a funny world, isn't it? But I know that I call it a luxury prison. It's not a prison. But I know that I live in abject luxury, and how this struggle, not just my struggle, the struggle, would be so much harder. It is so much harder for people that don't have so much, don't have a roof over their head or anything like that. So I say a prayer for those people. I realise how lucky I am that I can experience this depression. And this is another aspect of counting my blessings as part of resetting my frame of mind to something more positive, is the feeling, going through the feeling, the depression, going through the feeling of it, looking at it, staring down. I don't want to say things that remind people of suicide, but staring down the barrel, like, looking at this thing head on, confronting the fears and the hard things. It means that now when I'm looking at it again, this isn't the first time I've looked at this. This week is not the first time I've looked down, looked into that abyss, stood on the edge of that cliff. That's not the first time. So I'm lucky because I've had that experience before. And so I can say to myself, this time is part of that. Now, next time I feel it, I'm going to be able to refer back to this and say how lucky I was that I felt it, experienced it, and moved forward from it. And then next time, it's another strength, isn't it? It's another strength. So I'm lucky that I felt like that before, and expect to again. Yeah, it's made me stronger, hasn't it? It means that I can see it for what it is and not succumb to it. It means that in the mist, when I feel these things, when I'm doing the bad tweets, or when I don't really feel like being on Twitter, my dinner's not tasting like it should, I can actually grab hold of myself in those moments and say, like, hang on, this is part of that, isn't it? That's not an alarm bell or a red flag, or but a marker, a thing that I can say, hang on, I've got experience here. So I'm lucky to have that. And whilst you might not be ready to fight right now, or I didn't feel like it last week, at least I'm ready to dig my nails in. We talked about this the week before, didn't we? Digging your nails in and just holding on when the will... There's our weekly if quote, the will that says hold on. At least I'm ready to hold on. Definitely not going to go the other way. I've got experience of this. So I realised this was part of my feeling and my work of working through these feelings. Grief and nihilism, despair. Life isn't easy. It's not easy for any of us. It's not supposed to be, is it? So I realised that in the past, sometimes this can be cathartic, but if you leave it for too long, you can end up wallowing in that despair. That nihilism can become your whole existence. That's the depression. So I decided to put down the guitar and move into a different mental space. This is going back to what I was saying a long time ago. I was playing the guitar, I was feeling this thing, wasn't I? I was questioning whether I should even bother recording the songs, whether there's any worth in it, any value. Is life worth living? Well, I'm going to put down the guitar then, if that's what's coming out of that session. Sometimes I don't feel like that. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm Rick Astley. If only I could just hold this singing voice for a live performance just once and record it, or get someone else to sing it, and then you could hear the songs. If only I could. But sometimes I feel full of hope that it could be achieved. Not this time. So I put it down, moved into a different mental space, physical and mental space, deliberately. At that time, I played Fortnite with my sister and my friend, and that was okay. I wasn't like, I did say to them at the start of the session, I'm not feeling most, and this is important as well, talking about it. I'm talking about it now, but I said to my friend, my sister, and my friend said, we're going to play Fortnite. I haven't been streaming, I'm not feeling at the best. I just said it. I didn't say this whole thing that I'm doing tonight. Didn't have to unpack all that, but just told them how I was feeling so they could reflect on it and respond to it however they wanted. And it helps, just even if that's my friend Chris said that I could talk to him further about it if I wanted to. I'm doing it now on stream, so I don't want him to feel like, oh, deaf me off for talking about it. I don't talk so easily to people so deeply, and no one does, do they? But he offered it was there. I felt that if I needed to, I could have. So that's important. So yes, that was good. That makes you feel better. Not finished, better, fixed, but slightly better. And if I played Fortnite all night till 11 o'clock, I'd have felt worse. I only did it for a couple of hours before the grind depression kicked in. And then here on the notes. And now I feel better. No, I don't. I don't feel fully fixed, do I? I feel a bit better. I've got some perspective. I know it's part of the cycle. I know that everything comes in waves. You feel these things, you let them go. I know that talking this through with you today, writing these notes, has made me realise that I am going to continue to reduce the Mirtazapine. I have not fallen off the path this time. This week's depression, this difficult, because I'm reducing the Mirtazapine, because it's getting darker, because life is hard, because my future is uncertain, because there were things in life that maybe I thought I would have achieved by now, not financial, but maybe emotional. Because, and this sounds weird, but because my friend's got a new baby, which is wonderful, and I take a lot of joy in that. But also it makes me reflect that I don't, and maybe I should be hurrying up with that. These sort of natural feelings. This time, they have not sunk me, and I've not allowed them to become this cumbersome burden. I'm still in the mist. I can still feel the phase and the fog. But I've determined that I continue to push on, and that the whole point of feeling these depressing feelings is that I can feel them, have a little cry. Oh, that episode was sad, wasn't it? It made me think of Navin. That's sad. Now I can draw a little bow around. It was good that I felt that, because I hadn't faced head down. I hadn't realised head down that the element of deception in this is disjointed now. It doesn't fit here. It fits earlier in the episode, doesn't it? But the element of deception, doing the best thing for the dog. I had to give him some little tablets the vet gave me to make him a bit more drowsy, so that I could get him into the car, to take him to the vet, to have him put down without him, biting the vet, essentially. So I did that, and I remember, I didn't realise I was going to be getting into this now, but I remember, you put a little, I want to say toothpaste, it's not, peanut butter. Put a little peanut butter on these tablets and feed them to the dog. And the minute I started doing it was we're not going back from this. You're going to ingest those, and because that is the timer ticking on your drowsiness, I'm going to get you in the car now. And that was reality. And I was betraying him in some way, wasn't I? But not also, I was making it better for him, making it easier for him, making his burden easier to bear. So that sounds like a really. Is Of Mice and Men the what the matter, George? I think it is, isn't it? I think it is. I'm familiar with some of the concepts, so I will read it on your If you read a book on my recommendation, I'll read one on yours. That's fair. I will. I was only thinking this week, as part of this Menace, that I should read more because it used to help me a lot. So I was that's see how things play in as well. There's a lovely synchronicity in life that you might think these difficult times are there to break you, but in fact things fall into place in ways, and like now is a good time for me to read this. You've suggested it at just the right time. There's a lovely synchronicity to this. I'm not trying to make people think, it's certainly not on Mental Health Monday, I'm not trying to make some mystic, like everything works in mysterious ways, and we need some serious on the ground mental health fixings in this world, don't we? We can't just leave it to the mystic spirituality. So I don't veer on that side in this, but sometimes you can feel that positive vibe, and it makes you feel positive and hopeful. And I'm not going to try and make it into some mystic magic. I'm just going to say sometimes these things happen and they're nice. So that was a nice one. It could just be a coincidence, or it could be mystic magic, depending on what you want to believe. But I personally don't believe heavily in mystic magic. But I do, in the same way, I'm human. And I do sometimes these things happen. I'm like, well, they don't go with my science-based approach. But I'm willing to, just go with the magic for a bit. Like Christmas. Like when you're a kid at Christmas and you believe in Father Christmas, there are some things in your humanity that you really don't believe because the science doesn't prove it. And God is a good example, isn't it? We live in a much more secular society these days because we proved God can't really exist, and it's the brain doing this and that and all this. But who are you praying to when you're falling off the cliff? You're praying to the same God I am. We all, when these mystic magic little things, your brain thinks, oh, it couldn't it? It could. I wish. I hope. We still have wishes. We still have dreams. Science can't beat that out of us. So yeah, this isn't an episode on the spectrum of spirituality versus scientific approach, and where we all sit somewhere on that scale somewhere and have some ideas that are more romantic, even on different days. This is not a video about that. This is a video about wallowing in that despair, isn't it? About that space. So it was important to feel that thing. That feeling about betraying Navin. I hadn't really thought that hard about it. I tried not to think about it, to be honest, because it made me sad. But it brought it up in this film, in this piece of media. This concept was brought up. Sorry, there's no big spoiler there. It's a general concept. That's allowed. It was brought up, and it made me relate to this. So I needed to work that through. I needed to shed a tear about that, because that's the honest reality of what happened, and me facing it with some distance and time now, facing it with some knowledge and wisdom. I was able to feel it and let it pass. And that's good, because I should feel it, shouldn't I? Because I'm human, and they're good things to feel, the real things. And so this is what I wanted to bring that back now. When I was thinking, does this matter? Does it matter? When I was playing that song and I was thinking, does it matter if I ever record this song? Should I just give up? That's the extending down that road of suicidal thoughts. If you're not going to bother with the song, why bother getting out of bed? If you're not going to get out of bed, why bother at all? Should I just give up? Well, it mattered, didn't it, that someone took Navin to the vet. It mattered that someone gave Navin a life. Now, it mattered that I did those things. It mattered to him, and it mattered to me. I felt that sadness about his demise because it was real. Like, if it wasn't real, if it didn't matter, if my songs don't matter, if it doesn't matter if I get out of bed, then I wouldn't feel that, would I? If you're feeling depression, then it proves to you that it matters. Proves to you that it matters. It matters so much that we need to, that we do feel this great burden, because it matters so much. And then it drives us to say, well, I'm going to not have it matter then. I'm not letting it matter. Nothing matters anymore. Chuff it. I'm not joking about it. I said chuff it. I'm not joking about it. That's part of the mechanics of suicide. Not the only mechanic, not the only thing that goes on, but that's part of it, isn't it? So what I'm here to say is that we can, by opening out that, sometimes when you're playing a computer, I know it's stupid of me to relate it to computer games, but we are on Twitch, aren't we? Sometimes when you're playing a computer game, it's loads of fun until you really understand the mechanics, and then it just kind of isn't the same. The trick, the veil has been lifted, and you can see the trick behind it. So once you've done all your grind, like SimCity might be a good example. Once you've built the whole city and you got there at the end, it's like not as fun as it was at the start when you were struggling with the budget and trying to put your first fire station in. Because now you can see all the mechanics at play and you're a master of all the mechanics. So the veil's been lifted, and it's not as fun to learn and to discover and to trial and to error. So what we've just said there is the learning, the discovery, the trialing, the errors. They're the things that are meaningful and that we enjoy, that we seek fulfillment from the challenge. So if I just had all the money, if I won the lottery and that was it, I don't have to be challenged. It's not. Am I going to be bored? If I'm struggling and life is a challenge and a trial, should I jack it? Is it true to? And this is hard to say, or to. If you're struggling with things, I'm here telling you they're good for you and that they're part of the things you should enjoy. Learn to love the pain. I'm not being a masochist or a sadist. What I'm saying here is true, though, that those emotions and those feelings are real, and all the other things, therefore, all the joy that Navin brought me, all the times I felt proud or excited, or when that toy arrived in the post and I opened the box with him and he got it out of the box and we had fun. All those times were real as well, weren't they? They are made more real and important by the truth of the fact that the pain is real too. So it's all inbuilt. It's counterbalanced. You can't have one without the other. You see these things for what they are because of the other. There's Hegelian dialectics, which, like, if something exists, then the opposite exists. So if something is good, therefore something else could be bad, couldn't it? Good and bad are opposites, aren't they? You don't need to explain what bad is. It's the opposite of good. So when you're having these bad times, these difficulties, they prove to you that the good is real and can be found and can be lived and enjoyed. It won't last forever. Everything will pass. Everything's waves. You're going to get these bad feelings too. That's part of the ride. It's part of the ride, isn't it? A roller coaster can be up and down very quick. I don't know. It's part of the ride. It's part of the ride. That's what I'm going to say. Newton's law of motion, yeah. And turns out that Einstein and Newton were completely wrong and they didn't understand dark matter. So all analogies can change. What we're learning today in physics is that everything we knew in physics, and it's a right chuffer, that is, for me, because I had a right chuffing difficult job in physics. I found physics difficult. Well, it turns out the physics teacher didn't know what he was talking about. Nowadays, they would argue that he was wrong. So there you go. It doesn't work in the vacuum of space, does it? Oh, you've got dark matter to contend with. Oh, he didn't teach you about that, did he? Oh, write that on your projector and wind it past so fast I can't keep up. Right. We're not finished yet on this. We're not finished yet. Things I'm doing differently this time. Got a few chapters left here, look. I wanted to write some notes on momentum shift, and I didn't write them, but I'm going to say them. Momentum is important in life. I'm just going to briefly bang this out. We have had it wasn't a huge acceleration, but it was consistent momentum moving forwards with the things I've been doing here. The stream, the setting it up of the podcast, we've been on the journey. I felt a stutter step in. I mean, I didn't even expect us to be this far on, this early. I thought by Christmas we could have made affiliate. Well, we've made that twice over now. Look, Snippy's has dropped another. Capital K, I'm always, eternally, is going to be... he's going to love this. He's always going to have a place in my heart. You all have. But he dropped that sub bomb that day that turned us into an affiliate and kind of made a year-long goal of mine happen overnight. So accelerated, fast, true. So I gave myself leeway. I've said, look, I hoped to get this done by the end of the year, well, we've got another couple of months. So I don't have to push the podcast. I don't have to say we have to get people in this room and have done 5 episodes. I want to, but if we can start in January, new year, new start, new media product, alongside the stream, of course. But you know what I'm saying? If we can do that, then don't beat yourself up. Use these months to prepare to get where you want to go, to do the background, behind the scenes, a couple of practice runs. We've discussed it. But the momentum has, instead of me continuing to push forward, it's not fallen back anywhere. But if there isn't continual forward momentum in life, you can feel set back. It's not because you're being set back, it's that the world is moving forwards and you're not. So it feels like a step back in a way. It's hard to explain, but that momentum shift of moving forward positively and then stalling out a bit, turning off the engine and just floating, made me feel depressed. It made me feel easy to sink. There's another note I've put and I haven't explained it. Easy to sink. What does that mean? When you're depressed, something can hit you. Like if you're flying along, I don't know if this makes sense as an analogy, but if you're flying along 100 miles an hour and you're success and it's going well, and you're maybe 100 miles an hour is too stressful, so just tone that back. If you're flying along at 40 miles an hour and it's going well, and you're progressing as you want and everything's nice and you've got that grip on the steering wheel, then little thing can dink off the windscreen or off the boat or whatever, and it doesn't affect you. It doesn't really, you just carry on. Little things, they're gone in the past all of a sudden because you're moving forward. You're not focused on the things at the side of the road that are, pulling you back or detract. But if you're not moving at that speed, when you're struggling with the pedals, when you're like rowing the oars, it's really easy to sink you. Something that knocks you off your stride, something that just slows down your rhythm. It can suddenly, your boat's filling with water again and you're sinking. And it's a lot harder to go from those early pushings, those early strokes. The faster you go, the quicker the water flies out. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I think I've explained it there. I think when you're depressed or depressive or going through harder times or whatever, I think it's easier for you to be sunk. We could all be in the, I want to say ice cream parlour, but I don't like ice cream anymore because I'm vegan. We can all be in the vegan ice cream parlour and we're all choosing our flavours, and you've had your strawberry and you're having it and you love it, and he's had a coconut one. Oh, that's nice, that seems nice. I'll have a chocolate. Oh, we haven't got any chocolate on the menu today. And like no one else, the next person wanted chocolate, they'll have a coconut strawberry because they seem to enjoy it. Fine, carry on. But when you're depressed, it's like the ice cream, it's like they switched out all the lights in the ice cream parlour. All the people that are enjoying it drift away into their own little, enjoyment world, and you're left in this like, I don't like this. It's not that you start to see all the negatives. I start to see the way they're not using the vegan ice cream. It feels bad. The suffering, the poor working conditions of science. I'm not even going to enjoy the ice cream from this place. I don't even want one. I don't want an ice cream anymore now. I'm sunk. But all it was the flavours on. I could have had a different flavour. If I'd chosen a different flavour, it wouldn't have been It's easy for something minor to turn into this is ruined. It is. It's easy to be sunk. It's easy to get sunk. And we don't talk about narcotics too much on street. But one of the things people do say that I'll just say smoking, chuffing. I'll just say chuffing. I haven't got anything to hold up that might give you an idea of what I'm talking about, and neither should I, right? Neither should I. But sometimes smoking can make you feel easy to sink. I think sometimes being stoned can make you feel easy to sink. It's not always beneficial to your mental health. Not always beneficial. They say it's not beneficial at all. Anyway. Look, sometimes I can be in the frame of mind where something can sink me. Yeah. Easy to sink. Momentum shift and easy to sink. You put those two things together, a stutter step in the rhythm can sink you. A momentum shift can make you feel that you're not going anywhere. When you're feeling like that, when you've got the malaise and things are drifting around your head, then when you ask the questions, what am I doing tomorrow? What should I present on stream? What's my plan? What's my script? I don't know. Should I do that thing about the beans, or am I really going to talk about Bullseye because I'm worried about the racist thing? And do I need to do an episode about racism because I haven't covered that specifically? But I'm not really a social justice stream, am I? I'm a sort of am, because I'm about culture. I know I wanted to guide this thing in the direction of art, didn't I? But I seem to be talking about this a lot. I'm supposed to be playing that computer game. Like, it doesn't... When that's going on, and then you think, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing on this computer game. Am I boring people? Have I just spent an hour wandering around the woods and haven't got anywhere? Was that a waste? Should I even do that tomorrow? Is it worth getting out of bed? Like, easy to sink. What am I doing differently this time? I'm stepping back and I'm looking at it. This episode actually helped me. It's Mental Health Monday for everyone to gain something out of. So I hope everyone can gain something out of this. But I just have to be honest and I have to present the honest reality, because I know categorically, I said this is scripted, my life is not scripted. I am not the broadcaster, the media producer, the person who can put on a fake face. I never have and I never will. So if this continues into this week, into next week, I have to broadcast depressed. And I have to talk about depression. Simple. Like, I'm going to step back from it. So this episode has helped me do that, because I've written a script. I've written the thoughts out. I've done a bit of journaling. I've thought I'm going to talk about this to you on stream. I'm going to talk to the people, the people, power to the people. I'm going to talk to you, and I need to know what I'm saying, and I need to be sure I want to say it. So I wrote this out. I had a little thing that was helpful. Accepting some of the things that are natural and that I can correct, even if they're not pleasant, they're going to pass. So accepting that you're going to feel depressed by things. Some days it's going to be rainy, the sun's not shining so much anymore. I haven't gone out much this week. There's been a COVID. Yeah, I'm going to feel down, aren't I? That's a correct response. So I'm not going to hit myself over the head with the depression cricket bat of, therefore, you shouldn't bother getting out of bed. Like, this is correct. So what you should do is work on your mental health. I talk about it every week. So what an idiot to not spend a week away from the work trying to do things to make yourself feel better. Well, I have been a bit of an idiot. I have not gone out into the town as much as I thought I would have wanted to. I have not done so much. Took a few dog walks. Did a dog walk with my sister a couple of times. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it was enough to not be nothing. But I need to do more. So, yeah. But that doesn't mean not streaming at all. Certainly last week it meant it, because otherwise I'd have just been grumpy face, and I wouldn't have understood all this stuff. Wouldn't have had time to think it through. Would have just been in a bit of a head fuzz and just presented it. But I think it's good that I did this. Took a little bit of a break, but I don't want to spend time away from stream. It's important to my future to keep working at and being present on this stream. So I've written that in. Where do we go from here? Onward into the dark caves. What I just said, I know it's going to be a malaise. I know it's going to be a bit of a head fuzz. I'm going to keep reducing the Mirtazapine. It's going to make me feel more depressed. Or I'm going to feel more naturally less resilient. I have not seen the new James Bond movie. See, I could go and do that. Couldn't I? Hopefully that wouldn't depress me as much as Coldplay. But, yeah, like, we have to... I know that I'm going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to push through it. It's like dark caves. It's like trying to carry a torch through dark caves. They're not... It's a bit foreboding. It's going to be dark through the winter. January and February are going to be really hard if I'm reducing my dose, continuing through those months. But I want this thing to grow in January and February. I want the stream and the podcast to grow. So if I can put the work in now, reduce the Mirtazapine, when things get tough, when I feel that depression, because I'm reducing the Mirtazapine, hopefully we'll be on a positive ascent. Hopefully things will be pushing forward into a positive way. So I can say, okay, look, I'm feeling that, but also let's look at this thing that's good in life. Hopefully it won't lead to me just abandoning it and saying, I need a month off because I'm feeling even worse. I'm getting a hold of this now. That's the whole point of this episode, isn't it? I know that I'm going to sometimes slip back, and that's okay. I know I need time to gather my thoughts and work through things, and that's okay. I also know that I need to feel the rope and pull on it, and I need to see incremental gains. I need to get the podcast started, probably sooner rather than next year. You know, it is probably better for my mental health to bring my goals forward rather than saying, okay, we achieved them early, now we can have a month where we don't have to struggle to achieve them. I should actually say, let's bring them forward. But instead I was like, okay, we could just enjoy Christmas, but you know, maybe I should bring them forward. I'm committed to continuing through this halfway stage of the Mirtazapine withdrawal. It is a withdrawal process, isn't it? I thought tapering down could be done as a long-term thing, but I didn't realise that was going to leave me long-term fuzzy. Now, this is like the worst of both worlds. I don't have all the benefits of the antidepressant, but I do have the fuzzy negatives of the side effects, and I'm reducing it. So should I do it quickly? Should I just cut the Mirtazapine off? Oh, I feel really bad, but it doesn't take as long. No, I have to learn to deal with this fuzziness as we taper down. That's what I have to do. So I'll keep moving forward. No giant steps. I'll keep moving forward. And this week has been a real learning experience. Starting to feel in my nose now, I'm starting to feel that congestion that I think I get from talking for an hour and a half non-stop. So, I don't know if I can present a game show in a fun-packed way. I mean, I'm honestly feeling better being here with you now and interacting with chat. I'm feeling more like I could do that. But I don't know if I can present a fun-packed hour unless I'm in a good feeling space. So the only thing I will really want to commit, because I did commit to a lot this month as well. I said I'm going to be on every day. I'm going to be doing the game shows. I committed to a more entertaining presence, and yet I didn't think through whether I would feel like doing it. I just committed to it. So I will commit to this though. I do want to stream more, and even if I don't feel like it, I should be here being present. Even if it's talking about these things, I will do that, because it's better than not doing it. And then at the end of the other aspect is that you can say to yourself, well, I'm not going to do this thing. If you're feeling these things, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z because I don't feel up to it. Maybe I'll feel better in X, Y, Z number of days. But then the doing it could have made you feel better. The not doing it has this knock-on effect of, you said, well, I didn't do that, so I feel bad that I didn't do it. I let people down, or I feel bad. So clearly the path to the greater goal is to be on stream more. And this is where I come to my final little thing that I said already at the start, but I'll say it again. This clearly is the path, isn't it? This is the right path to the greater goal. That is a good idea. Being on stream more, being more productive, even if I'm not sure about which way to go, having a fallback of just playing a game and having a chat and being present. I know it's the right path because there's good people here calling me forward and holding my hand. I was going to write cheering me on, but it literally means something financial, doesn't it? However, we had a huge financial boon today, so that's massive. I didn't want to make it financial. It's about emotions. It's about the feelings. That's what we're talking about all episode. It's not financial.